After a group of Connecticut tenants formed a tenants union, the landlord evicted them all. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting article for you today. It's coming out of New Haven, Connecticut. Now, I've used articles from this New Haven Independent before because they actually go into a lot of the details with, the battle between landlords and tenants. And they're relatively fair. I mean, I'm not going to say they're 100% fair. They are leaning slightly more towards the tenant side of things. But I've noticed that they have taken the opportunity to talk to landlords and get their perspective on some issues, right? And so, it's a decent article or a decent publication in order to get good information and see the nuance when it comes to the landlord-tenant situation. So in this story that they covered, they actually have a story of these tenants. They formed this tenant group against a church, okay? The church was their landlord. So already we see that it's a nonprofit landlord, and they say, hey, this church, they weren't doing repairs, they weren't doing things like they were supposed to be doing, and we're living in squalor here, right? Well, the church turned around and sold the building, and then the new owners came in and then gave every single tenant in the building a non-renewal notice. So basically, we're emptying this building out because, hey, this place is in horrible disrepair and we need to fix it up, okay? And we can't do that while you all are living in here. So yeah, the tenants think it's retaliation, of course, because they're just being silly. But I thought the story was interesting because it kind of goes into the mentality that these tenants have, that everything, like they're entitled to cheap rent forever. They're entitled to the owners doing tons of repairs and then not raising the rent. They think that they can live in their units forever, or that everything is gonna be handed straight to them. That's not the way the world works, okay? And I don't care what you think, but it might not be fair, but it is legal, okay? It is 100% legal to remove tenants from this building in order to do these sort of major repairs, okay? At least it is in Connecticut where this is happening. So that's why the landlord's doing it. And I can't blame them. Can you blame them? You're going to come in there, spend millions of dollars on a property, then spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars fixing it up, and then you're not going to want to make any money off of it? Well, if you think that that's the way to run a business, you see what happened to the original owners, okay? The original owner was a nonprofit, a church, and the place fell into disrepair because they weren't making any money. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. So obviously this issue has to do with these tenant unions, and I'm just curious, have any of the landlords who watch my videos, have you ever dealt with a tenants union? I know they've actually formed tenants unions in Kansas City, one of the places I used to invest. Fortunately, I never had to deal with them, but it's a bunch of, and think of, I don't like unions in general, because union basically is groups of people who have this sense of entitlement. They feel entitled to so much stuff. They think that they have a negotiating position, and a lot of the times they don't, okay? They don't have a negotiating position. They drive up the cost of things, and a lot of them are very lazy and want everything handed to them for free. So, you can say whatever you want about unions. I'm not saying everybody in a union is bad. I'm just saying that I personally have been in 3 different unions, when I was much younger, and I ended up quitting all 3 because they would do things like protect criminals. I mean, literal criminals, people who were arrested, and try to help them keep their jobs. And this is a law enforcement job. This isn't, somewhere where, it doesn't matter that you've been convicted of a crime. No. This is a law enforcement job. So anyway, I'm on a rant. Let me get into the article. It's quite interesting. This article is coming from the New Haven Independent, and it says, "New landlord to tenants. Hello? Goodbye." Nice title there. Let's get into it. The new landlord of a leak-damaged downtown apartment complex has told the building's unionized renters that their leases won't be renewed, leaving some scrambling to figure out where they'll live next as soon as this summer. That's the latest turn in a months-long multi-landlord saga at the Emerson Apartments at 284 Orange Street. On June 7th, a company controlled by Edgewood-based landlord Michael Hayes purchased the 18-unit apartment building for $2.7 million from a company affiliated with the Trinity Lutheran Church, which sits right next to the Emerson Apartments. Within a week of the property changing hands, Emerson's tenants received notices signed only by property management that were posted to their doors and later emailed to them, advising them of an upcoming inconvenience. We are writing to inform you that due to significant work that needs to be carried out on the property, your current lease at 284 Orange Street, New Haven, Connecticut, 06510 will not be renewed upon its expiration. That later date, June 13th, reads, we understand that this may come as an inconvenience, and we want to offer you some flexibility during this transition period. You have the option to vacate the property at any time before your lease end date without any penalties. And this, I know that these tenants might not know this, but this is actually pretty common when it comes to buildings that are in severe disrepair. Okay. They sell these, and this is a common strategy amongst landlords and real estate investors. Okay, I know because I do it myself on a smaller scale. So you'll buy a property, it's in disrepair, it might be under occupancy or under rented. In this case, probably the rents are far below market, right? Let's say that the rents in the market are $1,000 a month, right? And the tenants in this building may be paying $500 a month. And remember, this is just an example, just for example's sake. So the tenants are literally paying half of what the market rate rents are, right? So the landlord purchases the property. It has a lot of expensive repairs that need to be done. The current owner can't afford the repairs. And, this is literally, I've gone through this myself when I'm buying property. I've heard this done just so many times by other landlords, right? So the new owner comes in, they say, okay, yeah, this place is in bad shape. I'll pay this much below market rate for the whole building and take it off of your hands. I'll buy it as is. Then they come in and sometimes they leave the current tenants in there, right? And fix up the empty units first. Sometimes they have to remove all of the tenants because there might be a big structural issue inside the building, right? So, in this case, I'm assuming that there's a big structural, expensive issue that needs to be fixed. And at the same time they're fixing that issue, they're going to go through each unit and fix them up. So then when all the repairs are done, they're not going to charge $500 a month rent anymore. They're going to charge $1,000 a month rent. And that will increase the property value exponentially, right? Then you can either, how you cash out is you either refinance the property, do a cash out refinance, and take your profits and your investment back, or you sell it and then do a 1031 exchange into another bigger property, okay? This is what we do. This is what all real estate investors are doing out there. This is what landlords are doing. Yet, I know the tenants don't understand that. You're not in, this isn't retaliation. This isn't a retaliation for you guys forming a union. This is just regular business practice. And is it nice? Is it nice that you lose your cheap rent? No, of course not. I feel bad for you, but eventually this was going to happen. It was going to have to happen because the church is not a landlord, and not a good landlord, okay? They're a horrible landlord. They don't manage their money because they're a non-profit, okay? They don't expect to make a profit, not realizing that the only way that you can operate this business is if you have cash flow. Being a charity landlord is just a money pit. It's just you're going to be throwing money into it. Even if you are charging them the exact amount, right, you're eventually going to have a major repair that's going to break the bank, okay? So, yeah, let me continue with this article. The letter goes on to ask those who decide to stay through the end of their leases to continue to make their regular monthly use and occupancy payments or rent, and to let management know of their plans at your earliest convenience so that we can make the necessary arrangements to assist you during this time. The letter is signed Sincerely Property Management and includes a phone number, office address, and email address. Emerson Renters, Raymond Hines, Stephanie Perez, Alex Kalokotronis and Jim Blah told the Independent that this non-renewal notice caught them all off guard. And so, you know, they kind of go into the stories of these tenants, right? And, you know, I'm not saying that the tenants don't, you know, that this isn't bad for them, okay? Yeah, you're going to have to move. You're going to have to find somewhere new to live, right? What I am saying is that your tenant union that you formed has no negotiation power in this whatsoever. None. Absolutely none. Okay, it's a complete waste of time to try to fight this. And, you know, like, what's the goal? That's really what you got to ask yourself. What's the goal of fighting this? You want the government to force this landlord to allow you to stay? Or do you want the government to force the landlord to fix the building up and then charge you the same amount of rent? I mean, it all sounds so dumb. Okay, it sounds dumb as heck. Nobody in their right mind thinks that, you know, either of those things is going to happen. So, yeah, face the facts. You got to go. You got to move up out of this place, right? And the best thing to do would be to start looking right now, okay? Give yourself as much time to find a place as possible. If your lease extends into next year, I would suggest you start saving money right now, okay? So that you can afford the last month rent, security deposit, whatever else is necessary for the rental apartment process, okay? This is, you know, just one of those things. It happens. And, you know, the best position that you could possibly be in would be to own your own home. Now, obviously, you might not have the money for that right now, but, you know, the fact is that as a renter, you are never going to be able to stay forever in any unit that you live in, okay? I was a renter at one point in time. I always knew that, hey, you know, come lease renewal, my landlord might not renew my lease, you know? So, you know, I always tried to be the best tenant I possibly could, and I moved around a lot too, so I never had the issue of, oh, you know, like I'm getting I'm getting used to this place and this is my new home. No, I just always thought, okay, well, eventually I'm going to own a home, so no big deal if I do have to move. So anyway, if you're interested in this article, you know, it's kind of a long article, kind of goes into a bit more details than I did in this video. I'll put a link to the article in the description.